a conscious pioneer, a logic general, a reason brigadier, battling a system that finds ignorance profound. Substantial evidence is all we need you to propound. Pascal's wager might seem like good reasoning to you, but my wager, I bet you never meet the burden of proof. Poof, voila, it's magic, can't you see that he said some magic words and then it all just came to be? Ha, more bullshit from the pulpit. Meet me in the comment section and you get schooled, bitch. More bullshit from the pulpit. Meet me in the comment section and you get schooled, bitch. The Godless Engineer.
Alright, so hi Rebecca, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Hello.
Good, good. As I said before, we are here to talk about your religious background and really how you came into your atheism. So, why don't we start off with what kind of Christianity you were a part of, like prior?
I was raised as a Catholic.
Okay. So, what kind of experiences did you have, like, growing up as a Catholic? Did you go to a private Catholic school, or was it just, kind of something
Um,
you guys did?
I did go to Catholic school, but only for a year and only in kindergarten, but I remember it vividly. It's very hard to forget it. I went to church every single week. I went to Catholic Christian Development classes, which are CCD, every Wednesday for, until I was 17 years old. And I went to a camp that was a non-denominational Christian camp. It wasn't a Catholic camp, but it was kind of like a Jesus camp though, but it was called King's Camp every summer. So,
Hopefully, it didn't have any kind of relation to the Book of Kings. um, so when you were growing up, did you really question anything that you believed? Did you do any of that?
oh, definitely. It was I can trace it back to whenever I was 14. 14 is whenever I really started to question things, because we had to say the same things every single week, um, during Mass, because for Catholics it's Mass, and so in the Nicene Creed it made you say we believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, and I remember thinking, well, I don't think all my Baptist friends are going to hell, so I was like, I don't know if I believe that line. And then as a Catholic, I was taught, all the saints and stuff, and at one point I was like, I think it's weird to pray to dead people, so I'm not gonna do that, and I just kind of eventually line by line was like, that's also weird, and that's also weird, and just line by line, eventually I was just kind of sitting there silently looking around myself, thinking it was all strange.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic myself. I was in a private Catholic school up until about fourth grade. After that, I was like, screw this, I'm going to public school. But I know exactly
So you
what
know what I'm
you're.
talking about with the
Yeah,
Nicene Creed. You know what I'm talking
yeah, yeah. I went through all that. I even went through the ash, the little ritual you got to go through in order to take communion, where they draw a cross on your head and everything with ashes and whatnot. So,
about.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Ash Wednesday. Yeah, do that and wear it all day.
Yeah, and but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about there, because I know when I was in mass, I mean, I don't know about you, but it was like really boring. So like for instance, I taught myself the Vulcan hand
Yeah,
sign while I was in mass, and I learned how to cross my
I
eyes while I
used
was in
to. Okay, this
mass.
is this is what I used to do as a child. I had two things. If my brother was sitting next to me, we would have elbow wars, where like we'd try to elbow each other without mom knowing. And then light in the ceiling that Jesus was in because he was in the brightest light. So I'd weigh out which light was the brightest one because that was Jesus's light.
Yeah, you see, I
Yeah,
remember.
it
I
was
was
boring.
I was gonna say one time I remember being very curious about what the priest's cloth, like his robe. I remember thinking, well, I wonder what that feels like, and so I like reached out and touched it. But you see, this was during the day at school one day, and so when we got back, the teacher was like, and John was trying to trick the priest. I'm like, I was just curious about what it felt like. Of course, still, I would say that that was still an inappropriate time to try to do that. But just illustrating that I was curious about things even at a young age. Um,
Yeah.
but oh, as you were coming out of religion, did you have any kind of unique experiences? Any unique interactions with other people?
Um, Maybe I kept a lot of it to myself. Although, okay, no, now that I'm thinking about it, while I was coming out, yeah, I did have some interesting ones. I had some interesting ones that happened internally too, because I had a lot of weird dreams because I was leaving religion, I was like possessed by the devil or something. Like I would in my dream look in the mirror and see like a demon coming touch my shoulder, and then he'd be in my eyes. And then I'd wake up and I'd be like, this is ridiculous. This is just your programming taking over, and you'll get through it, and eventually you won't have these dreams, which was true. Eventually, I was like, my mind worked itself out. But I remember, so while I was coming out of it, before I ever said I am an atheist, and I was just researching it, I literally changed my major to humanities with a concentration in comparative religion because I wanted to find the correct religion because it wasn't Catholicism. I knew that one. Um, but I was like, well, which one's right? I got to do the right one. And so I was studying comparative religion. And so at some point, I was getting more and more kind of like leaning toward atheism. So there was a project that I had to do in one of my religion classes, which was to study the mythology surrounding death and the way that a culture dealt with death. And instead of doing a mythology or culture, I was like, I'm going to choose atheism, and I'm going to do a project on how atheists view death. Only this was before like there was Dawkins or anything, because this is 2003, I think. Um, and so I didn't really have any books or anything. So instead, I just had to kind of think about it a whole lot and everything. And so what I ended up doing, I wrote this entire paper based on like whatever I could pull together. And then because I was in the honors section of the class, honors students all had to present their paper to the class. So in front of the entire class, I had like weird stuff coming out of my mouth, sort of like, so why wouldn't you kill people? Like I like, in a whole section based on why it's reasonable not to kill people, like why atheists wouldn't just go and murder everybody instantly and stuff like that. Anyway, it ended up turning out really well. I got an A. But yeah, there were some interesting looks in the class on that paper and all of my subsequent papers, which all got a little more like further towards atheism
Yeah.
as I went along.
Well,
I basically majored in atheism. I didn't mean to, and actually at the end, after I got my degree, I was like, oh great, now I just got my entire degree in bullshit that doesn't exist, so that's great. That's so useless. I was really mad
yeah.
because
Well,
I thought I would get the right religion, and instead I didn't get a religion at all.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I think in our current political atmosphere, I think a degree in comparative religions can really give you some kind of an insight into some of the things that are going on, which I've actually got planned to,
No,
to bring up in
I've used it a tremendous amount.
yeah, ever since the tornado, right?
Fucking amount, way more than I ever thought. But even before that, even just raising my kid and everything like that, and even in my social interactions and how I treat people and everything else, I think that it's just benefited my life, full stop. So, yeah, all right. I, you know,
Well, prior to the incident, the tornado, you had said to Seth Andrews that you had been kind of in the closet for like 10 years or so. What was that like having to keep that part of yourself kind of secret?
fun. Because in my mind, I always just didn't say that one word. Like I would say all the other words. Like I'd say everything I thought. I said every belief I had, every stance I had. I would stand up for every single other thing, and I just wouldn't use that one word. And so I thought it was hilarious. I was like, ha, they agree with me on all my points. So that's really funny that if I said that word, they'd freak out. But like if I don't say that word, I'm perfectly fine. So I thought it was fun. It was like a masquerade because, you know, it was interesting to know that everyone thought highly of me. And if I said that word, I was worried that they would, for whatever reason, suddenly not have the same opinion, as though that word changed all the rest of me that I had presented factually correctly over decade, you know.
Well, I
So,
mean, how did that make you feel that if you identified in that one certain way, that it would pretty much change their perception of you completely?
I see that as a them problem. Like I think that's sad. I'm like, oh, it's too bad that you don't understand how that doesn't matter, you know? And so yeah, I wasn't too bad about it. I more or less was just like, ah, it's too bad that you don't understand that all of the other things that you like about me are exactly the same as they were 5 seconds ago,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I know. Me personally, I didn't really have a grand pronouncement or anything that I was an atheist, but kind of like you, I just started standing up for what my new worldview basically, and really and really tried to put it out there that my views were changing, and honestly that caused a lot of friction between me and my friends, mainly online, also my friends in real life. But I'm kind of curious, like when you were going through that and you were expressing these new opinions and really standing up for yourself, did you come into any of that with your friends, like any real friction?
Um, I'd say that, yeah, there were a couple of people who, unfriended me on Facebook, I guess. And I had a couple of people who, kind of talked about it, but they kind of left it alone. Like my mom was just like, that's not really true though, right? Because you believe in a higher power. And I was like, Mom, I wouldn't have said atheist if it didn't mean atheist. Or,
So sorry,
nothing too bad.
hold on. So it's like okay, you're an atheist, but you do believe in a God, right? So that's pretty much what it said. What your mother said.
That's what my mom was like. Yeah, yeah. But in the end, people were pretty nice. Every now and then, though, like I'll catch somebody who I know is a believer, and they're like squinting at me while I talk, like they're trying to like make sure I'm not saying anything like that might be from the devil. Like they have a weird look in their eye, like they're like trying to see if I'm trying to be tricky, you know?
Yeah.
And that hurts my feelings. I'm like, don't squint at me. Like I see you doing that. I see you like trying to see if I'm doing something evil, you know. But otherwise they treat me fine. They're fine.
So you think that maybe it could be like, I'm agreeing with her. Is the devil at work in this place?
Right, right. I think that that's what it looks like is happening because I'll be talking and they're like, like their face doesn't smile. And then at the end, then they smile and they're like, "Oh, blah blah blah." Like they're like, "What is she saying?"
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's perfectly fine. That all sounded normal.
So kind of going towards the tornado and you being on national television, what really made you want to pronounce your position, um, especially on a live TV broadcast? I mean, that took a lot of courage to do. I'm just kind of curious what made you decide.
I am not a liar. I'm not a liar. I don't lie. Like, had my mom ever asked, I would have said it. Had anybody ever asked, I would have said it. Like, in every other circumstance, whoever it was, I would have said it. And so, I guess for me, it didn't matter who was asking or who the audience might be, because I feel comfortable internally with defending myself. I wouldn't have gone out of my way to say, "Hey, Wolf, I'm a atheist," like I definitely, and had they told me beforehand that he would ask me that or say any of that, I probably would have been like, "Hell no," um, because I wasn't interested in being out. I had 10 years, but I don't have a problem with being out. So I wasn't gonna lie. I wasn't like that was totally off the table, and I wasn't gonna just say no because that's super weird. Like, do you thank the Lord? I don't know. Moving on. Like that's just not anything I would ever do. So I said with the truth, but it did take me a second, like longer than it normally takes me for any question. Like I don't usually stutter or stammer or stop. Usually I just like throw it out there, and instead I'm like I, trying to get the truth out because it was coming, I guess. And I think I even dropped my head and sighed. I was like, oh no, like there's like you can if you watch the clip, it's like I. you know,
Yeah.
because I had to accept that before it came out. I'm like, oh gosh. you know.
Yeah.
Well, this is going out there. Okay, there it is. Now you have it, everyone. There you go. Enjoy.
Uh, just curious. I mean, how did your husband feel about you saying that on air? Like, was he upset
Right,
or anything?
because he wasn't out either. 'Cause really, I
Yeah.
just outed him too, didn't I? Luckily, he loves me, right?
Yeah.
Because I did call him. I called him afterwards and I said, um, you know, hey, how are you? What's up? Because he's with his dad trying to take care of tornado things. And he's like, good. How did the interview go? And it's like, it went great. But so, like, he asked this weird thing at the end. And he's like, what he asked? And I said, he asked if I thanked the Lord. And he's like, oh my gosh, what did you say? And I said, no, I told him I was an atheist. You said you were an atheist? Oh, you know, my grandparents were watching that, and so I was like, so you should tell your dad, 'cause like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You should tell your dad now before he sees it tonight.
My mom found out through Facebook. So, like,
Well,
the
like
way
she.
everyone else,
Yeah. So like
huh?
everybody was sharing around the interview, and she just happened to see it, and it was like, wait a second, I know her.
Well, right. Well, because a lot of people knew I was going to be on CNN anyway. They were like, "Oh, we're going to get ready to watch Rebecca on CNN because she saved Anders' life. She saved her and Anders' life, and they're going to interview her on CNN. So we gotta watch." Like they knew that was going to happen. Because CNN contacted me the day before because they were like, "Mother saves child. This is awesome. We really want to do your story." And so then right. So they're watching, and then you know. I'm an atheist or whatever.
Did just
Like,
curious, did
right. But what's really funny is I didn't actually like I knew it was a that it was going to be out there, but I didn't know it was going to be like a big deal or anything. But his producer did. His producer like ran up after the interview and like shook me while I was holding my baby, and I thought she was crazy. And she's like, "You're gonna go viral." I was like, "Okay, weirdo."
what I'm kind of curious. What was Wolf's reaction like off camera? Because right after you dropped that bomb,
Oh, he's really
on
nice.
he was real nice.
Nope. He was just like, you did a great job. See ya. He was just nice.
See you, heathen.
Right. He was just like, you did a great job. Your son's cute. Bye. Very,
So and
very
you didn't
normal.
you didn't expect it to go viral. You didn't think it was kind of a big deal at the time, or like it's not necessarily a big deal like outside your family.
Well, in my head, I had been interviewed for like 9 minutes, and then that like couple of seconds at the end was a very small part of the 9 minutes. So in my head, I was like thinking the interview was the 9 minutes, and that was just like some weird throw comment at the end, like, "Oh, you're bad. Yeah, no, you just asked me a question. You really didn't know I was an atheist. Ha ha." Like it was just this throwaway moment at the end where I was like, yeah, that's not part of the interview. You know?
So, kind of going back to, you coming out of religion. What would you say that there's anything different like about you now as opposed to when you were a Christian?
Yes. Tremendous amount. One, I'm no longer a liar. As a child, I gotta tell you, it's really easy to be kind of like a bad kid if you label yourself as being bad. Like if you it's sort of like if you're on a diet and you eat a cheeseburger, you're more likely to eat like 3 more cheeseburgers that week. You know? I just remember whenever I was a kid, I would lie to get away with almost anything. And now I'm like just confessing random truths. Like anytime there's some confession to be made, I'm like, I'm gonna confess right away. I don't know. I like the truth a lot more than I ever did. I'd say I'm more moral. I care about people more. I think about people more too. Like I have more of an awareness of other human beings and who they think they are, and I care about who they think they are in a way that I used to just, you know, if they weren't Christian or doing Christian things, then I would automatically be like, oh, well, now I judge thee, you know? I once told my best friend whose father died, like, from an overdose, that her dad was definitely in hell. Like, that's so messed up. I can't even, that's so wrong and sad and terrible, like to just be like matter of fact, like definitely your dad's in hell, like that's just messed up. And so I feel like it's safer to be around me than it ever used to be, because I used to judge people based upon a silly book. And now I judge them based upon their actions and how they affect other human beings. And I live by that. I feel like I could be judged based upon how I treat other human beings. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, going back to you, kind of confessing random truths. I mean, you didn't feel comfortable going into the wooden box and telling a complete stranger all of your secrets? Or did you never do confession?
I did confession, but like I didn't really like. I'd go in and be like, "Yeah, I hit my brother, and like I lied, and I mean." But I was a kid too. I was a kid who was confessing sins, and so it was always like, "Yeah, I forged my mom's signature on this document," or something, because I really wanted to go to that thing and I was punished that week. I don't know. It was, silly kid stuff, but yeah, I confessed, but I didn't confess to my mom, and I feel like that's where I was avoiding like the hammer. you know.
From your position now as a mother, what's your opinion on childhood indoctrination? There's been this idea going around that it's more akin to child abuse to indoctrinate your kid with religion or something like that.
I think that's too far. If you're gonna judge it like that, like everybody abuses their kids somehow, because like everybody does something that's not right. Like my kid probably watched 2.5 hours of television one day instead of 2, and therefore that's against what the recommended amount of television he's supposed to watch. I don't know. I just feel like there's definitely some kinds that I think are abuse for sure. You know, you know, where you bring them into violence, anything having to do with violence, definitely abuse. Or just a violent mindset or anything like that. But, I have a lot of Mormon family members, and I'm not going to say that what they're doing is abuse to their kids, because they're happy, they're productive, they have their thoughts, and I don't think that they're real or whatever, but I don't feel like their children are being abused. That's not how I would view it. I wouldn't raise my own son, clearly, to think that, but I don't feel like like what they're doing, I would use the word abuse on. I don't know what word I would use, but it wouldn't be the word abuse for sure.
Okay.
But I would say that, like if everyone, had me choose, I would probably say no religion,
Yeah.
if it was my choice. Um, and I do think that there are some religions that are more abusive than others, for sure. And there are people who are more abusive with their religion than others, because I mean, you could find somebody like who's a Spanish Catholic who's using the rod or whatever, or their sticks and they're smacking people with them. Like even nuns are known to be abusive, and I mean, people use religion in a lot of different ways, and so I think it's how the individual uses it.
Yeah, I would have to completely agree with that. I think it's really dependent upon how the individual actually teaches their child their particular religion. Because I mean, you can do it without it being in an abusive nature, but at the same time, people are using the same exact words, same exact theology to really like emotionally and sometimes physically abuse their kids. Because I don't know if you know of this book. It's called To Train Up a Child. They are supposedly biblical, and they suggest taking pipes and beating your kids.
Yeah, that's the thing. That is abusive, definitely. But even if it's sometimes it can be emotional abuse where they try to take emotional abuse on a couple of levels, because they could either try to take the identity of the individual away from them, like if they were gay and they tried to say we're going to pray this away, that's abusive to me. Or if they were in turn to make that child use their religion against other people, I think that is some kind of psychological abuse, because they're teaching them to use it against other people. So they're teaching them to abuse. And so I also see a problem with that. I think it's nuanced. It's way more nuanced than just saying religion is abusive or whatever. It's just, yeah, there are things about it that can be abusive.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Because, I mean, I live in North Alabama, so I've got religion everywhere around me. And I really think that it's just dependent upon the parent. And I think that, if a parent does use their religion to be abusive, I think that really speaks more to the parent's mindset rather than, them, the use of religion. Because, I mean, religion can have, uses to where it's not, where it's blatantly not abusive, but at the same time, it's like they use the same theology. So I think that really is like that clarification is really where people are kind of getting confused and are lumping them together. And I generally don't like to paint with a broad brush and just label a broad subject to be one particular thing.
I'm that way as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So now you kind of alluded this a few minutes ago, but how are you handling religion with your child? I think that you said that you would choose no religion, but I'm kind of curious, like how exactly you're handling that.
Definitely. Definitely, I'm going to make him aware that I'm not religious, and I'm not going to force him to not be religious. Like, that's not going to be the approach I take. If anything, I think that we're probably going to learn a lot about many religions. I celebrated Diwali with him a couple of years ago. Like, I don't know. I like the idea of getting a dreidel and a menorah. I just want to expose him to a lot of different cultures, to show him that a lot of different places have a lot of different religions, and they all came up from their own stories, and this is how things came to be, and why these stories are around, and why they used to be important, and where they came from, and the things that they were trying, like the points they were trying to make, because some of the points are really great, like the moralistic stories. They're trying to say, oh, don't be a terrible person. Like, that seems great. I like stories about not being terrible, but I will tell him that my stance on it is that these are stories, out of the billions of, years that the universe has been around, for those stories that were made like 1,000, 2,000 years ago to really be like the end all be all of existence seems ridiculous. you know, um, I'll tell him my thoughts on it. I'll give him all the evidence, and I'll say, go make up your own mind. And I'm pretty confident that he'll probably come out an atheist, but I'm never going to say, you need to go be an atheist now. And I'm not going to make him do any particular thing other than, giving him options, telling him stories and stuff like that. That's my plan.
Well, I know you don't know, but I have a 5-year-old son, and that's pretty much the position that we've taken too. Where I've asked him on occasion if he's curious about what a god is or anything like that, just to kind of test the water. But every time he's been like, "Nope, I don't care." And yeah, and so we've really taken the tact of trying our best not to bring up religion to him and really put him in that position. But also another important thing that we've kind of taught him is that like religion is something that you really need to decide later. Later in life, and you don't need to worry about it right now. So I mean that probably has a factor in it as well. But yeah, pretty much the exact same situation with me. I'm just pretty much not trying not to influence him as far as religion goes. But just like you again, if he were to ask, I would give him all the information and let him decide for himself.
Yeah, definitely. Free thinkers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm raising. I'm raising a free thinker.
Exactly. As you've been out as an atheist, have you had any Christians that have tried to really push like a position on you or push like Christianity? Because like I recently talked to Ryan Bell, and he had a caller on the Atheist Experience try to push Christianity, saying, "Oh, no, you're a Christian." Have you ever had that kind of experience?
I did. And actually, that's why I'm currently working on the project I'm working on. I was proselytized to by volunteers in my destroyed house for being an atheist. Well, I didn't even use the word atheist with them. We were going through my son's destroyed bedroom, which was very traumatic for me, because I thought I'd keep all that stuff forever. Just all the little things from their birth that you think you'll keep. Anyway, so I'm going through this stuff, and then she's like, "So which church do you go to?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't go to church." And then she said, "Raising this baby without Jesus?" And I said, "Yep." Yep. And then she spent the next 30 minutes trying to convert me, just saying, God brought me here today, and he just wants you to come home to him, and he just wants to bring that beautiful baby back home to him, and he put me in your life so that I could touch you with his spirit, blah, 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 blah. And it just went on and on and on and on. But I needed her help, and I couldn't kick her out. So I was just like, okay, And so, the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I am dealing with enough. I don't need to be dealing with you. I don't need you to be telling me what kind of parent I am because of my choices in life while I'm going through my baby's destroyed belongings. I had so much anger, but I couldn't get it out because I needed her help. And so instead, the whole time I started thinking, I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to go and I'm going to volunteer as a humanist for somebody, and I'm going to make sure that whatever organization I'm volunteering with doesn't push their beliefs and doesn't, I want them to understand that if they're a Catholic at that moment, they need to be a Catholic at that moment because their house is destroyed and they're trying to deal with it. And they don't need to be dealing with, does God exist? Or some jerk in their face saying, well, where was your God now? People like to put that comment on the internet, and that's such a dick comment. Sorry if I'm not allowed to curse. It just is. It's just they're dealing with enough. They don't need to be questioning God because they're trying to get through something traumatic. And leaving religion is super traumatic. You don't need two traumas at once. Maybe if you want to question it later or something, but at that moment in the middle of their destroyed house, not the time at all.
No.
And so anyway, I just was like, I got to get this message out. I got to make sure that humanist volunteers aren't doing that. And so I went to So that's how I ended up on the project I'm on now, was because of those people.
So anybody watching this that feels like pushing their religion on atheists or whatnot, you might just get them to help out in the community a lot more. So maybe it's a good thing.
Pushed me into very, very, very amazing amounts of activism. I think I was actually looking at my hours that I've put in on just this one project. That's not even counting the other projects I work on in the atheist community, and it was like 700 hours so far of just volunteer work. So yeah, that lady really inspired me.
Yeah, I'd say so. So tell us about the project that you're working on right now.
So right now, so I went to look to volunteer with a humanist organization who did disaster relief, and none existed. Oh, I didn't know that. And so I was like, how is it possible that this doesn't exist? This should exist. And so I just got hung up on that idea, and I approached Foundation Beyond Belief about getting involved with me in making it exist. And Dale McGowan is a sweetheart, and I love him, and he said yes. And so we are, a year and a half into that, and it should be launching around May. And we should be responding to our first disaster in June or July, whenever some disaster happens.
You got a disaster on the books, yeah.
Right, surely we'd love for none to ever happen, but that's super not realistic at all. So whenever one happens after May, that will be where we go.
Awesome. So, do you just basically provide cleanup efforts, or what exactly is the purview of the organization?
It'll depend. What we're doing right now is we're partnering up with different organizations who do different things. Some might work in a food bank, some might rebuild houses, some might clear debris. There are a lot of different things, and it'll depend on which organization is responding to the disaster and which one need volunteers, and then we'll send our teams through them, because they'll have... You can't actually just go on the ground immediately, because you have to have systems in place and everything like that. And so what we will start by doing is sending our teams through these established, or then over time we're going to build until we're one of those organizations. So hooray! There are a lot of different things you have to do to be able to do that, though. It takes at least 5 years before you can be one of the ones that are on. It's an NVOAD, NVOAD. It's this list of organizations that are allowed to go on their own and everything. So we have to go through one of those while we build our systems. And we're really excited. Hooray!
Yeah. Well, that sounds awesome. I think it's a much needed, service to have now. I mean, especially with the growing population of the non-religious affiliated.
If you look at those organizations, I'd say 55 out of 58 are straight up religious organizations, and the other 3 are secular, but they're so they allow religious or non-religious people. None of them are actually humanist branded at all. And so, yeah. But the thing is, the vast, vast, vast majority of the volunteers who go and respond after disasters are actually religious people. And so it's funny that we'll imagine having a world without religion, but in a time of crisis, we rely on religion. So definitely, definitely needed.
Yeah, I'd say so. Kind of switching gears here a little bit. How do you... sorry. Switching gears a little bit here. There's a number of religious freedom bills that are being pushed through. I'm wondering if you could, give me your opinion on those bills. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not exactly.
Okay, well, just a brief overview. Like in Michigan, there was that discriminatory law that was passed that allows EMT EMT people to basically not help LGBT people. If they identify as an LGBT, the EMT service has the right to just not help them. There's also multiple
Yep.
bill. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know what you're talking about now. I know what
Okay.
you're talking about. I know the bills you're talking about now. I wasn't aware of that specific one, which is totally insane, along with all the other ones, because it's just allowing discrimination, which is exactly the opposite of everything I was ever taught the Constitution meant. It's really, really annoying that it takes so long to go through the process in the legal system once somebody takes your rights away from you. Like, your rights are taken away, and then you're like, hey, I gotta fight for this, and then they're like, ha, that'll take a decade, and you better be up for the fight and have a lot of money. That's just so weird. They can take something so seemingly necessary, like EMT services, away from you because of how you deem yourself as a human being. It's sickening. And I don't understand why it takes so long. I guess I do, because there aren't Supreme Courts just all over the place. It's just 9 people, and if they were hearing every single time that somebody had a right taken away, which is apparently constantly, it would be tough. But it's really obnoxious.
Yeah.
I wish there was more you could do.
Yeah, me too. Because just right next to me in Georgia, they've got this new religious bill that's been going up, and it could potentially protect child abusers and domestic abusers in general. And it's all under the pretenses that it's supposed to allow more religious freedom or secure religious freedom, but I think they're just really being a lot more detrimental than they realize. Staying on the topic of all this in general, how do you feel about the current environment of pushing these religious ideals into our government?
Oh my gosh. I wish there was a way that you could prosecute people who did it. I wish that was time. Like, woman who is in California who is contacting all of the county courts and trying to get every foot in God trust inside of their things, intentionally try very specifically to breach the separation of church and state. Like, she's intentionally trying to do that. That should be criminal. Like, they should go and arrest that lady for that. I think that should be criminalized. Because she's trying to basically break the law, but she's found this weird loophole where they don't call it a breaking of the law. You're allowed to just try to totally throw a monkey wrench straight into government on purpose, and that's perfectly fine. I know that probably that would be a slippery slope. Does anybody who's lobbying for anything get that way? But it's just it seems so clearly obvious that she's trying to weasel something that should be illegal into the government. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. Here in Alabama, Roy Moore, a state Supreme Court judge, he
Oh my gosh, that's right. I know all about Roy Moore.
Yeah,
I know all about Roy Moore.
Yeah,
That man's a criminal.
Well, yeah, because he's basically ignoring federal law, federal things, and he's trying to get other people to ignore.
That's my impersonation. I am above the law. That's Roy Moore.
Yeah, and he really is. And a funny thing, his son actually got arrested for drug possession here recently. I guess it's not really all that funny, but it's just kind of ironic that he got arrested for that, but yet his father is able to basically, disregard a federal law, and he gets away scot-free. That's just kind of I guess, ironic to me. So to kind of round out the interview,
Yeah, I don't understand why the denial of rights to other people isn't a crime. Like, that seems like a crime. That just seems like it should be a crime. Denial of rights to another person. Like they should be able to prosecute, like, press charges against you for doing that to them. Like, that, I would love to be able, like, if an EMT would treat me because I was LGBTQ, I would like to be able to prosecute that person. Like, I want to sue them. You know, I feel like I have justification there. And that
oh,
be arrested.
well, now, hold on, Rebecca. They have deeply held religious beliefs, so that's fine.
So they should be able to do whatever they want to me, and my rights don't matter anymore because of beliefs. I forgot about that.
Well, kind of staying on this topic a little bit, I've often felt that the current pace of, these bills and whatnot, and the general atmosphere that I've seen on social media has been that we're basically going back to pre-civil rights era. People are saying that, businesses should be able to discriminate openly because it's their own private business, this is coming up because of all the LGBT laws and anti-discriminatory laws. But, I mean, a lot of people are really failing to realize that it could also be applied to race and, gender or anything like that. And they're only keeping it to sexual orientation.
Yeah. I feel like they're doing it while they can. Like, they feel like the ship is sinking, so they're bailing out water by trying to do all these little stopgap weird things that are totally illegal, and eventually their silly ship is just going to sink. And they don't want to see it happen, so they're just like, stopgap weird laws that are totally wrong. Is right now. But I just don't feel like any of those silly things they're doing are going to stick. Like, there's no way. They're clearly wrong. I'm like, maybe for a small amount of time that might go into effect, but like, there's plenty of money, there are plenty of lawyers, there's plenty of angry people. So I feel like, it's eventually it's just going to be accepted and fine. Especially 20 years from now, we'll have it in the history books and it'll be like, yeah, they did this crazy thing that was totally not legal at all, There'll be that case of Roy Moore, and he'll be frowned upon in the history books,
Yeah, I can just see it now. Then this dumbass in Alabama, he was like, nope, screw the law.
And then a year later, whenever they challenged it in the Supreme Court and won, like, people versus Roy Moore, like, it's just, or whatever. It's right. It's not gonna. None of that stuff's gonna stick. It's clearly not gonna stick. It's ridiculous, but it'll go in a history book for being ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Ted Cruz wins the presidential election, it might stick. Did you hear about Ted Cruz announcing his candidacy?
I did. I don't like I feel like the statistical likelihood is so low that I'm not going to take it seriously. Not that one. I mean, if I was going to take anybody seriously, it wouldn't be that guy.
Yeah.
It's like Rick Santorum. That reminds him. Whenever Rick Santorum was up, I was like, yeah, right.
There's no way this guy can be president. Look at him. He's 3 strikes away from a straitjacket.
Right. I was just like, yeah, you're going to get at least 50% of the electoral college. No, you're not.
maybe he's talking
about women. No.
Maybe he's talking about the electoral college in like some kind of a sane asylum, and it's just like one guy that's like raising his hand. So to kind of round out the interview, what do you have planned for this year? I know that your organization, you're going to be starting to do help with relief efforts in June. Do you have anything else planned?
Most of the stuff's just going to be talking to groups about the project and stuff like that. I'm supposed to be at Free OK in Oklahoma in June, and I'm supposed to be at Gateway to Reason in St. Louis in July, and I think I'm supposed to be somewhere else in the middle of July, but if there's a disaster during those, then I'll just not be at those and I'll be at the disaster, I guess. Other than that, it's working on the program, and I host Ask an Atheist. It's a radio program in Tacoma. I do that once a month, and so I'm probably going to try to keep up with that, and taking my kid all around the country because that's what I normally do. We're actually leaving tomorrow for a 2-week road trip, so that'll be fun.
Oh, cool. Well, where are you guys going?
We're going down to Arizona. We're going to camp in the sequoias because he's totally obsessed with trees right now and doing all kinds of stuff along the way.
Yeah. Actually, when I was growing up, I was in this Science Olympiad team in middle school, and there was this one section where we had to identify trees, and I kid you not, every tree we went up to, I was like, yep, that's a dogwood. like every tree, I was like, yeah, that's a dogwood. It could be a pine tree. I'd be a dogwood. It's a dogwood pine. That's what that is.
My kid's really funny because he thinks the tallest tree in any forest, like a lot of hikes, will tell you tallest tree is, that's the Great California Sequoia Redwood. And I'm like, sorry, buddy, no, it's a tall tree, but that's not a sequoia. I'll show you a sequoia next week, But yeah, but he's pretty good. He'll correctly identify Douglas firs and larches, and he's only 3.
Oh, wow.
But it's from They Might Be Giants. It's like a little video they have on, C is for conifers. And he's obsessed with it.
So have you ever been to conferences before, or is this going to be the first set that you're going to?
No, I've talked at a few, maybe like 4 or 5 different ones so far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm actually going to my first couple next month, actually, because I'm going to American Atheist Convention in Memphis, and then I've got another...
I'm jealous.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get to watch MST3K go at God's Not Dead. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I wanted to go, but it couldn't work out in the plan, so...
Well, you see, lucky me is there was actually a contest for Be Secular, a clothing store that I'm affiliated with, and they had a contest, and it was basically just make a video about why it's important to be secular, and I actually won it, and so that's the only reason why I'm going is because I won tickets. Otherwise, I don't think I would have the money to shell out for American Atheist tickets. Hopefully, I can save up for next year though.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same thing. I'm hoping that I just wasn't prepared. Like, I didn't even really think about it until a month or 2 ago, and I was like, oh, too late now, so maybe next year. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun. I'm jealous of everyone who gets to go.
Yeah. Well, I know I'll be doing a few interviews from the conference, so I guess go to my channel and subscribe, and you'll be able to see them. Yeah, well, Rebecca, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about your religious background and everything that you're doing. I hope you know how appreciative everybody is of all of your efforts, and I really commend you for everything that you're doing for the community. And do you have anything that you want to say before we head out?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Well.
All right. Oh, the way. You should probably go to foundationbeyondbelief.org /HDR teams and sign up.
There you go. I'll be sure to have all relevant links in the description below, guys. And as always, I hope you have a nice night, day, weekend, and think skeptically and stay godless.